Fighters of Europe is the standalone sequel to Fighters of the Pacific, a game whose demo I reviewed some time ago, and this one that you see in this video is a demo too. So this is an upcoming game. Nevertheless, this is not a paid preview, it is a review, one of my usual reviews of games. The publisher asked me if I wanted to take a look, and sure, I don't mind taking an early look at games that look interesting, especially because I did like Fighters of the Pacific, and I like the Battle of Britain as a topic for wargaming, so I was very curious about this one. But again, keep in mind, this is a demo copy, so the materials may not look exactly as they will in the final edition, and also this demo copy only comes with 3 scenarios, so probably there will be more when the game is released fully. So, if you're a busy person, you don't want to watch the whole video, I'll keep it short for you. Fighters of Europe, from what is in this video, is extremely similar to Fighters of the Pacific. I didn't see any significant difference, so what you're going to have is a game that is very, very similar, almost the same, but with a Battle of Britain topic. The board is modular, so you have these like puzzle pieces here that are double-sided and used to create different configurations. In the 3 scenarios that the game comes with, the demo comes with, one is pure fighting in the air, one and only with fighters. One is a combination of bombers and fighters, but it's not about bombing proper, so the Germans are escorting bombers across the board. And then you have a 3rd scenario, bombing proper, which is this one, which I set up. So the Germans are coming with their bombers, and they'll try to bomb that airport there as the British are taking off and going to try to prevent that from happening. We also have anti-aircraft guns there. So that was a general view to give you a sense of what the board may look like, but now we're closing. We get a little closer to the board to talk about the game mechanics. So, the game is extremely simple. Also, it is a rare example of a fully deterministic war game. There's absolutely no random element, no dice, no cards, no nothing. Just basically move and attack. Now, at the beginning of each turn, you're going to determine initiative. It is based on a number of factors, and an important concept here is air groups. Air groups are airplanes that are flying next to each other, all at the same altitude. There are only 2 altitudes, high and low, and they're all facing the same direction and belong to the same player. As long as you respect those rules, an air group can be as large as you want it to be. So right now, the British have 3 air groups. This counts as 1, this counts as 1, this counts as 1. If they were doing like that, it would still be 3 groups because these are not at the same altitude. So to determine initiative, you count the number of air groups that you have. The fewer, the more likely you are to get initiative. The idea, I guess, is that you can coordinate better. More aircraft at high altitude, or more groups at high altitude, means more chance to get better initiative. Also, if your airplanes are not damaged. When an airplane takes damage, you place that token under it, unless it is a large bomber, then you get the double damage token when it takes 2 damages. So you take those factors into account: number of air groups, altitude, and damage aircraft, to determine who has initiative. The player with initiative, well, you set this marker to indicate that they have initiative for that turn. The player with initiative can go first. They can also choose to pass, and they can choose to pass for as many times as they want. So this is a really important advantage because, well, you can see what the opponent does and then place your aircraft in position to damage them. Or, well, steal the opportunity, go in that turn in which you do want to cover the final distance and finally hit the opponent. So, when it is your turn to go, because the initiative player and you decide to go, or the initiative player forces you to go, you activate an air group, then it goes back to the initiative player, or in any case to the other player. Again, if it's the initiative, they can choose to skip again. So players will usually alternate activating groups, but again, doesn't have to, because the initiative player can alter that. But when it is your turn to activate an air group, you activate any and all of the airplanes in that group, and one at a time. And pretty simple. One moves and then can attack, another one moves and then can attack until everybody in the air group has gone. And so suppose that the situation is, oh, the Germans are coming. Suppose that we were like so. There you go. When you activate an aircraft, it moves its movement allowance. It has to move its full movement allowance, which is usually 3. It is 3 for most of the aircraft, at least that come in this demo. These are the models that you have for the British. These are the ones for the Germans. As you can see, most move 3 spaces, and they have to. I just say they move 3 movement points, because to move, they will perform maneuvers. So advancing in a, I suppose that this guy started here. Advancing in a straight line is 1. Sliding to one of the sides is 1. Turning is one of the sides is 1, meaning you turn by 60 degrees and then you move like that. Also, that is 1 movement point. You can dive if you're at high, so move 1 space forward and move to low altitude for free. Or you can also, if you're at low altitude, climb, which is a straight move forward at a cost of 2 movement points. Fighters can also perform the split S, which means they can spend all of their movement points if they are at high altitude to simply dive and come out in one of the 6 hexes adjacent the starting hex with the tail facing that hex. So again, it would be, I hope you appreciate the sound effects. I know that demo was very good, but that's what that airplane did. After you move, whoop, if you are at the same altitude as a target and there is a target in your cone of fire, the active aircraft can attack it. And the cone of fire, in most cases, for our fighters, is the hex right in front of it, the one in front of that one, and the 2 adjacent. So you're projecting this diamond shape cone of fire there. And the bombers have different areas in which they can project their firepower. What happens if and after, of course, after you activate an aircraft, you mark it as activated? That is super important, yes, for combat purposes, because if I declared an attack against that one, because it is my cone of fire, that one has to try to dodge if it can. Basically, it must, if possible, perform a move to get the heck out of the cone of fire. And for example, that would be a legal move. But the dodging aircraft becomes spent in the process. So that is the cause. There's no immediate firepower damage, but you have lost cohesion, you're not where you want to be, and you don't travel as far as you wanted to go, probably. That will complete the activation for that aircraft, and then suppose another one goes, and so on and so forth. And suppose, hello, I'm coming here, and I'm coming to say hi. Booyah, now this guy here comes. This is again in the cone of fire. This one declares an attack. If you declare an attack against an aircraft that cannot dodge, either because they already activated or there simply is no room for them to dodge, then that is when they take damage. That's basically the idea. Activate air groups, then aircraft within that air group. Each activated aircraft moves and attacks. If you attack an unspent enemy, they can try to dodge. Otherwise, if they've already been activated, they take damage. If they take enough damage, they are eliminated. And then there are a couple of extra rules, of course, to account for different situations, such as you have anti-aircraft guns that can attack enemies in their area only at low altitude, or at the beginning of the turn after calculating initiative, but before activating, they can place a barrage marker within 2 hexes from themselves, and now anybody flying in there at high altitude, enemy or friend will take damage. And then, of course, we have... Hello, we're just sneaking in here, hope you don't mind. We have the bombers, and we got diving bombers, level bombers, and that's just different setting you give to the bomber. For example, there's a level bomber I've decided, and so it moves 2 straight in a line, drops the bomb, and destroys the airport, which is what they were trying to do in the first place. Again, different rules, so different models will have different abilities. Some guns are particularly powerful only in specific areas, so the field of fire. The Spitfires are super agile, so they get an extra 60-degree turn when they move. So this sort of thing. But in general, follow the procedure that I explained, activating air groups and aircraft turn after turn until one of the players has achieved the victory conditions of the scenario, or you play the required number of turns, and then you determine victory based on victory points and the conditions of the scenario. I like Fighters of Europe, and there's no way I wouldn't have liked it because I like the original game, Fighters of the Pacific, and this one is so very similar. Mechanically, it is almost indistinguishable. And again, I'm comparing demo with demo, so there may be things in the final product here that will add more variety and different things. But the core engine, as I see it from the rulebook, is really the same game with different models and a different setting. Which is one, incidentally, that I like very much. I'm very interested in the Battle of Britain. I like games about that. But, you know, if you're looking for variety in your collection, just know that they're very similar. So that is something to take into account. But mechanically, speaking of the game on its own merits, because maybe you didn't pick up Fighters of the Pacific, this is a rare deterministic war game. No dice, no cards. Everything can be determined, and I mean it will be determined. Everything will be decided by the player's choices. So the plus for me is that the game is very smooth. It plays very easily. The rules are very simple. I don't have to check combat tables and things like that. The risk, of course, is if you play with somebody who is prone to analysis paralysis and really trying to calculate and maximize everything, they will, because they can determine exactly where their aircraft will go. And of course, that can suck the joy out of the game. Now, I played the game solitaire, controlling both sides at the best of my possibilities, which is something I enjoy doing, and I didn't have any problem here, even though there was no hidden information. I didn't have any problem because after a while there is enough chaos, then doing that perfect, maximizing everything becomes complicated. Sometimes I would try to do it and I didn't realize that if I moved that other aircraft that way and then they die one level, they're not where I expect them to be. Again, somebody who really wants to do it could do it, so just know whom you're playing the game with. But from the initial clean situation to the chaos that you have later in the battlefield, the game is pretty interesting. And again, in the right spirit, there shouldn't be too much of that overcomplicated analysis paralysis. So no problem playing it by myself. I also played it with my 10-year-old kid, so you know that in terms of complexity of the rules, you can definitely play it with younger players. And then sometimes my kid would surprise me, and so that was pretty good. I just like how simple the game is, and again, how it depicts the chaos of battle that is inscribed in the concept of initiative, and that happens very naturally because people will be forced to dodge, and now there are more air groups that changes the situational awareness of the two sides, giving one or the other initiative. The timing element, wait, now we go. But of course, going earlier means that now your aircraft that are spent or sitting there in the middle of the sky, possibly being open to counterattack from the other side. Very interesting elements, very interesting ideas. The bombing system is simple, as everything is in this game, but is effective, and it creates that imbalance, that asymmetry between these big aircraft, very dangerous if they get to do this one thing that they're being sent to do, But to get there needs to be surrounded by swarms of these dangerous Spitfires that just look like they are taking 90 degrees turns in the sky, because they almost can due to their agile trait that they have. So very fun, very interesting situations. Again, if you watch my videos for Fighters of the Pacific, probably I said sort of the same things. I didn't check. You can make that check if you want to. But I seem to remember liking the game for the same reasons why I like this one. So Fighters of Europe, very compelling to me because I like the previous game so much, and this one gave me pretty much the same experience. That can be a minus, of course, and a significant one if you're looking for variety in your collection.